Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are looking forward to having an informative session with you. Let me begin by briefly introducing myself and ISGH Job Networking. My name is Amber Zaidi, and I am the admin for this committee. We are a nonprofit committee that works for you. In addition to resume and interview preparation services, we offer many classes throughout the year so you can build and improve your skills and make yourself more marketable in the workforce. We try to assist everyone, so our classes range from GED, ESL, and basic computer skills to more technical classes like Python, SQL, and more. Please scan the QR code to go to our website, isgh.org/networking. And now for our exciting program tonight. We are honored to host our guest speaker, Reza Bachhus, tonight. Mr. Reza earned an electrical engineering degree from the University of Texas at Arlington. He has 33 years of experience in communication systems and computers. His work spanned debugging, designing, and performance engineering for numerous generations of computer architecture at Texas Instruments, General Dynamics, Halliburton, and Hewlett-Packard Enterprises. He is currently a distinguished technologist at HPE, where he is responsible for defining the next generations of computer memory, security, and management. Mr. Reza holds 18 patents in computer memory, server management, operating system, energy management, and computer architecture. Mr. Reza actively mentors scouts, high schoolers, college students, and professionals, and highly encourages you to do the same. Welcome, Mr. Reza.
Thank you very much, Amber. Much appreciated. Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah, it's a great privilege to be here tonight to talk to you about something that I'm very passionate about, and that is innovating your career. And I want to just jump right into it. So this is going to be a very interactive session. There's going to be lots of exercises, both physical and mental. So be prepared. Fasten your seatbelts. We'll just get right into it. So I have an open exercise for you, and after we go through it, I'll tell you why this exercise is important. So I'm just going to slide back a little bit, and hopefully you can see my hands. Well, what I'm doing here is I am clasping my hands like so, and I would like you to do the same. Clasp your hands together and look at which thumb is on top. Look at which thumb is on top and which pinky is on the bottom. If your left thumb, like mine, my left thumb is on top and my right pinky is on the bottom. And so now, I'm assuming you're all in this position. What I'd like you to do is drop your hands to the side and think for a moment. And I want you to put your hands back together, but this time with the opposite thumb on top and the opposite pinky on the bottom. So we'll do something like this. And so try that for a moment. And what you will notice is that you have to think to get it right. Now, there's an advanced version of this that I want you to do, and that is you put your hands to the side and imagine you're going to fold your arms. Don't fold your arms, just imagine you're going to fold your arms. Now think about it for a moment. Think about if you were going to fold your arms, which hand would be on top and which hand would be on the bottom. And now I would like you to fold your arms the opposite way. So think about it, think about it. Now fold your arms the opposite way. All right, I just want you to put in the chat how easy that was to do. Did you have to think? Not easy. Yep. Relatively easy. A little bit. Hard to think. Easy. Very good. Yes. Awesome. Thanks for responding, guys. So the purpose of this exercise really is for you to know that there are things that we do in life on autopilot. There are things that we do automatically, the way we clasp our hands, the way we fold our arms, and many other things, including our career development, that we do automatically without thinking. But there is another way. There's a way to step back, to pause, to reflect, and to think before we act. And so here's one of the most important things you're going to get out of this talk. And that is, don't put your career on autopilot. Don't. Think about what you have to accomplish. Having said that, what are we going to get out of this talk tonight? Here is the summary of it. This is what I would like you to get out of this talk tonight. When the world hands you lemons and everyone else is making lemonade, you should be thinking about building a global supply chain for the sustainable production of sugar. Think about that for a moment. When the world is going somewhere, you are an enabler. One form of innovation is about shaping what's beyond the horizon. So we're going to talk about the tools that you need to do that. To do this, we're going to talk about your strengths. We're going to talk about your influence in the workplace, and we're going to talk about your influence in the world, inshallah. And this applies whether you are an employee, whether you're a manager, whether you're a business owner, whether you are an entrepreneur. These uh, uh, these tools that I will give you tonight will apply across the board. That didn't work. I'm supposed to go to the next slide. There you go. So to do this, we're going to talk about.
To interrupt, Brother Reza.
Yes.
We can't see your screen.
You cannot see my screen.
Yeah,
let's try that again. Going to do that.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for that.
Yes, we can see it now. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you. So we're going to, first of all, there's three ways we're going to approach this. One is we're going to talk about your strengths and capabilities. Then we're going to talk about your workplace. And then we'll talk about the way the world shapes you. And we have to know ourselves, and we have to know ourselves better than anyone else knows us. And we have to know what are not only our strengths, but also what are our biases, what are our weaknesses, how do we respond in certain situations, what are the things that we do naturally, what comes to us naturally. And for this, we'll do a thought experiment, and I'd like you to write something in the chat when I tell you. So here's I'll tell you the thought experiment. What we'll do is I'm going to say something to you, and I would like you to capture the first thought that comes to your mind. And when I say that thing, and put that in the chat. So here goes. Your best friend comes to you, your best friend who is a renowned scientist, a renowned chemist actually, comes to you and tells you that he or she has created a substance that can dissolve anything. I want you to capture the thought that comes to your mind and put it in the chat. Let me see here. I have to pull up the chat. Yes. Use it on landfills. Ah, very nice. Dissolve metal, acid, dissolve waste plastics. Very cool. Very cool. Any more thoughts there? Dissolve gold. Oh boy. I would question define anything. Ah, we have a skeptic in the group. Cannot happen. Yes. Any more thoughts? Come on, guys, don't be shy. So you'll notice that there was a, a variety of answers from uh, making use of it to being skeptical of this, what this thing can do. Um, so, some people, uh, why did he make it? Very good. Uh, some people will say, like some of these answers you've provided, what can we do, in terms of landfills, taking care of plastics? So this sort of indicates that, hey, there's something useful we can do with this, and maybe you're an environmentalist. Some people may ask, who can I sell this to? Someone may say, how can I weaponize this? Someone may say, what do you store it in? If it dissolves everything, what do you store it in? That's the sign of an engineer, right? The engineer finds problems. The world just lays problems at the feet of the engineer, and he or she, tries to figure out solutions for these things. This question is a very provocative question that can give you an insight of something that comes naturally to you. Someone may think that, hey, if you get injured from this stuff, how do you treat it? That might be someone who's medically inclined. Someone may think, hey, if I get injured from this stuff, who do I sue? Right there's a lawyer in the making. Um, in and so it's a way of evoking some nascent some inner thoughts that you have that don't necessarily come to light. I asked this question of a college student, and he looked at me really puzzled, and he said, can it dissolve anything? And I said, yes. And he said, can it dissolve my sins? And I thought, wow, here's a guy who should really go and study, to be a sheikh or something like that. It gives you an idea of what comes to you naturally. But this is just one example. We need to develop other mechanisms for uh, getting insight into ourselves on a regular basis. And the way to do this is, in any situation, whether you see a news article or someone tells you a story or someone relates an incident to you, kind of put yourself in the different characters in that story. Place yourself in that story and think about, how would you respond naturally, and how would you like to respond, and sort of develop some understanding of how you will behave in different situations. Uh, so it- think think about who you are, and what you bring to a situation. How do you solve problems? In I want to throw out a challenge to everyone. Lots of us, we have in the back of our minds that, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start my own business. I want to run my own company. And we need to know with some amount of certainty if this is something I am capable of doing. How well do I know myself? And I want to give you a challenge that can help you answer that question. Are you capable of being an entrepreneur? And here's the challenge. This is going to take about a week. So uh, I want you to think about it. And if you do it, and you're actually will take about a month, I'm sorry. And if you do it and you're successful at it, please, send me an email, send an email to Amber. Let us know what the outcome was. And some of you may be familiar with this already. And it's called a pen barter. The simple, a pen, just a pen, the pen barter. And the way this challenge goes is that you start with a pen. You start with a pen, a common pen, and you find someone to trade that pen. You trade that pen with. So you give them the pen and they give you something of greater or lesser value or equal value. And you do this for, and then you take the first week, you trade the pen for something, item A, and then the second week, you take item A and you trade it for item B. And then the third week, you take item B and you trade it for item C. And then in the fourth week, you take item C and you trade it for item D. And the idea is that over the course of 4 weeks, you can basically transform what was initially the value of a pen, which is of minimal value, to something of greater value. If you can do this over the course of 4 weeks and get up to something of a bigger value, you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And you have the skills, the persistence, you have the ability to communicate, to sell. Those are very key components in being an entrepreneur. And it's something that many of us, we need to know that we can do this or we cannot do this. And if you cannot do that, we need to erase that thought from the back of our minds that I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to run my company, and erase that and just focus on our day jobs. If, on the other hand, you're successfully able to do this uh, challenge, you should seriously consider branching out and becoming an entrepreneur. Start small, but you have the potential for what it takes. So, all in all, this is what the idea is that we need to have a better understanding of who we are before we can move forward. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are our biases? And so that first part is all about, it's all about you. It's all about me. And the second part, where we're talking now about, we're going to grow our spheres of influence. We have many different spheres of influence. And I have some of them listed here. Our network, which I think most people are familiar with, what the importance of having a network. And this organization is called uh, jobs networking, right? That's where we come together to help each other. So we know the value of that. The other is knowledge and wisdom. The third is duration of impact, and the fourth is value and value transformation. And I want to talk briefly about each one of these. But before I do that, I want to tell you about a guy named Bruce Williamson. He's the chairman and president of a company called South Cross Holdings here in Houston. And he said something very profound. He said that most people are very bored with their first job, whether you're fresh out of college, you're fresh out of high school. Your first job could be very boring. You might find that it is a very repetitive job. You might find that it's very mundane. But the person who figures out why this job is important to their company is someone who will go on to have a very successful career, someone who will have 4 or 5 major promotions in their career. And that's a pretty good thing. And then he went on to say that the person who figures out how to eliminate that job, it's someone who's going to go on to run that company, or someone who's going to go on to run another company, or run a major division in a company. And that's something that we have to think about. What is it that the world needs from us as we develop our career, as we progress? What the world needs is our influence. What what are the things that we recognize, and what are the things that we grow, and what are the things that we can accomplish? And this is, people are depending on that. My manager is depending that I am influential, is depending on me, that I am influential in certain areas, that I'm successful in certain areas. My coworkers are dependent upon me. If I'm a manager, my subordinates are depending upon me. If I'm an executive, well, my subordinates are dependent upon me. If I'm an entrepreneur, the people who are working for me, even my customers, are dependent upon me. And my ability to execute comes from my influence. And so I want to talk about these influences. Our networking, it's not just that we think of our network as a place where we can go to get help, but we should also think about our network as a place where we can give help, where we can be beneficial. And one of the ways to actually become influential in our network, is by thinking of everyone as either an internal customer or an external customer, or an internal supplier or an external supplier. And what do I mean by that? In this conversation that we're having right now, I am sort of the supplier. I am telling you stuff, right? You are the customer. You are absorbing what I'm saying. And then in between, there's some interaction in which I ask you a question and you put something in the chat. It the roles reverse. Later on in the conversation, you may be asking questions, and our roles reverse. You will be you'll be the supplier, and I will be the customer. So in any relationship, that it's a fluid relationship between when I'm the customer and when I'm the supplier. But all in all, we have to treat each other with respect, with dignity, and so that we can get the best out of each other. And so think, in addition to getting value out of people, we think of giving value. And one of the ways that I see naturally happening in this jobs networking group is that I see, when I look at the chat, I see who the influencers are. The influencers are the people who are posting jobs. They are the ones who are saying, hey, I know someone who is looking for a job, or they're saying someone I know someone who has an opening, or here's a training that's available. These are the influencers, and this is how you grow your influence, because people will remember that you are someone who is capable of getting something done. So grow your network not only in terms of number of people, but the relationship that you have with those people, so that they can remember you and you can remember them in turn. The next sphere of influence is knowledge and wisdom. And knowledge and skill, we can get that from training and repetition. We do the same thing over and over and over again until we become experts at it. But wisdom is the ability to do the right thing at the right time in the right way to get the right result. It's applying your knowledge beneficially. Either you benefit, your customers benefit, your management benefits, your suppliers benefit, somebody benefits. This is what the wisdom is. Applying that knowledge so that people get benefit from it. But how do you translate? How do you transfer your knowledge into wisdom? Many people say, hey, this is just experience. Over time you sort of develop that wisdom, but you can accelerate that process by doing a postmortem. Every time you do something of any significance, you can do a postmortem. For instance, after this talk, I'll go review the tape and I'll go see, hey, I should have said that, I should have done that, I could have done that better, or something like that. You do a postmortem so that you can see the next time you have to do this, there's an improvement that you can make. And over time, that helps you to develop your wisdom. Um, Another way to get wisdom is by a coach, by having a coach. And with that, I would like I have a little exercise that I would like us to do to demonstrate the value of a coach. So what I'm going to do is, and I want you to do the same, is I would like you to just raise your right hand as high as possible above your head. Just stretch it out, stretch it out, stretch it out, stretch it out. Now, when you stretch it out, Now, when you get as far as you can go, as far as you can go, I want you to hold it for a second and listen to this. I want you to stretch it out just a little more, just a little more, just a little more. What's the value of this exercise? Okay, you can take your hands down now. What's the value of this exercise? I want you to think about two things. One, when do you know you've unlocked your fullest potential? Not when you've reached it. We may never reach our fullest potential because the target keeps moving. You know, I get a new job, I get a new assignment, I get a new manager, I get a new, things just keep changing. And I may never be able to reach my fullest potential, but I can unlock my fullest potential. I can always be functioning at a high rate. When do we know that we are? That's the first question. The second question is, what's the role of a coach in getting you to unlock your fullest potential? If I did not tell you, push it just a little more, right? Would you have been able to push it a little more? Maybe, maybe not. Now I want you to think about this. How many people are waiting for you to tell them to just push it just a little more, just a little more? They're just waiting on us to be their coaches. We need coaches ourselves, but there are other people looking for coaches. It's a two-way street. Coaching helps you to develop wisdom, especially if you coach. You will see things in a different point of view. We all need coaches, but coaching, whether it's, kids, and I say this because many of the executives that I know, uh, they don't just do their day job. You will find that they either play a sport or participate in an activity, some extracurricular activity, whether it's a band or sports or scouting, and they are participating as coaches or as players. They are involved. Um, but it's the coaching that gives you that extra edge. So spend some time to spend some time and effort to transfer your knowledge into wisdom. The next thing I want to talk about, your next sphere of influence, is about duration of impact. People remember you because you've been contributing for a long time. People remember uh, baseball players or basketball players or football players because they've played for a long time. Their contributions have been consistent over a long period of time. And whether you're a technical person or a business person or a process person or a manager, what is the duration of your impact? And just to give you an example, you know, if you build a building, if you're an architect who builds a building, that building may last 100 years. That's the duration of your impact. If you write a book, maybe people will read it for a year, 2 years, 10 years, 100 years. We're still reading Shakespeare today, right? Hundreds of years later, but not everyone reaches that level. Um, if you were to write a patent, your company will gain access, will get rights to use that for 20 years. If you write an algorithm, uh, how many generations will that be used? So we have to think about the things we do, how long does it impact, and what is the consistency by which we contribute? And the longer we can contribute, people will remember, and that's where our influence comes from. People will remember, oh, this is the guy who is a good programmer, or this is the guy who is a good mechanical engineer, or this is a manager who can get things done when the situation is very difficult. These are our duration of impact matters. It's not that we get on the scene, we're a one-hit wonder, and we're done. It never works out that way. When we're trying to foster our career and grow our career, we have to think about our continuity of contributions. How long does this, what we're doing, how long does it affect? So next, I'd like to talk about value and value transformation. We have to see ourselves for the value that we bring to something. If a mechanical engineer is told to develop two screws to hold two modules together, the screws may cost $1, let's say, but the modules themselves might be hundreds of thousands of dollars. The value, the, the value that you bring is not that $2 for the screws. It's the $200,000 that combined those modules are worth. So we have to see the big picture, right? Remember, I said you may have a boring job, but the person who figures out why that job is important to the company is the one who is going to have a very successful career. So seeing the value that you bring is what's important. And if you think, today we're very aware of the impact of the supply chain uh, constraints that the world is facing right now, and we can't build cars because a $5 computer chip is unavailable, right? So car is worth 30, 40, $50,000, but it's sitting on the assembly line waiting for a chip or waiting for a belt or waiting for a screw that's just cost pennies or a few dollars, but we're holding up this 40, $50,000 piece of equipment because we don't have these small parts. And that's what we have to recognize, is that we may be working on small parts, but they contribute to a larger value. And we have to know and we have to articulate that value that we bring to the bigger organization. So, these are our spheres of influence that as we continue to grow our career, we should be cognizant of this. We should be cognizant of these spheres of influence. And as we grow them, we become more and more influential. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit more about value transformation. Now, value transformation, am I blocking the screen? Are you seeing that? Value transformation it could be tedious and it could be painful. Remember, I talked about your first job could be boring, right? It may be repetitive, but there is something that's happening to you in that first job. If we look at the case of a butterfly, a butterfly starts out as a caterpillar, and it eats and eats, and after a few weeks, it curls itself up into a cocoon, and it stays in there for a while, and then it starts to emerge from the cocoon. And if you were to see a butterfly emerging, if you were to ever witness a butterfly emerging from a cocoon, you may be tempted to help it. But if you were to help it by breaking open the cocoon, you're actually committing a death sentence to the butterfly, because the butterfly never develops the strength in its wings to fly. It needs that struggle from breaking free from the cocoon. It needs that struggle to develop the strength in its wings so that it can soar. And I want to give you the example of maybe something that happened in my own career. For many, many years, I was a memory engineer, and that involved very repetitive tasks. For generation after generation, year after year, I would spend days, weeks, months on end in the lab taking measurements on memory. And I would adjust one parameter. So I would adjust something like, I would take measurements such as latency, power, throughput, all kinds of temperatures, all kinds of signal integrity, lots and lots, hundreds and hundreds of measurements I would take. And then I would adjust one parameter. I would change the voltage, I would change the temperature, I would change the clock rate. I would change one thing and then take all the measurements all over again. And did this for generations, generation after generation. Very boring, very tedious stuff. But what happened? What was the transformation that occurred to me from doing that was that over time, I was able to predict with great confidence how the next generation of memory should behave, how the next generation of systems should be designed to, to accommodate the next generation of memory. And so I became a trusted advisor to the computer designers. And then I became, and once I proved myself on that ground, I became a trusted designer, a trusted advisor to the business itself. So now the business managers would come and ask me about performance and cost and different aspects related to memory. And then I became a trusted advisor to our suppliers because they wanted to know, what do we want as a computer design company? What do we want in the next generation of memory? And so that was my transformation, transforming this very tedious job, this very tedious assignment into becoming a trusted advisor, not only within my company, but in other companies as well. And so look at every job that you have, not as, hey, this is just a day job, but lift that job up. Lift that job up. It has meaning, it has value to somebody in your company. And I give you the example of Buc-ee's. And I, I hope you know what Buc-ee's is. So Buc-ee's is this rest stop area across Texas. We don't have them in Houston. I think there's one in Katy. But lots of people on road trips like to stop at Buc-ee's, and their number one attraction is clean bathrooms. Clean bathrooms. If you're on a road trip, you need clean bathrooms. And that's what they're selling, clean bathrooms. And people stop. They have big facilities, clean bathrooms. Lots of people go there. If you're the guy assigned to clean bathrooms at Buc-ee's, you are a critical part of the business model of Buc-ee's, of making that company successful. So the point is, it may seem like a trivial job, but it has big value to someone else. And so we have to think about the value transformation that we bring to our company, whether it is my company or whether it's a public company or a private company. What is the value transformation that I bring? I want to give you one more example, and that is of value transformation, and that is peanuts. If you take a peanut, it's just a peanut. If you plant it, you'll get a tree with lots more peanuts. If you shell those peanuts, if you reap the peanuts and you shell them, now you have something you can eat. You sprinkle some salt on it, it becomes very savory. If you grind it up, you can get peanut butter. You take that peanut butter and you put it on a sandwich, you put some jelly with it, you make a sandwich, you can eat it. If you take that sandwich and you put it in a Ziploc bag, you can sell it. And the thing that brings the greatest value transformation in this whole process is if you put a label on it. Because when you put a label on it, now you've put your integrity, you've put your name, you've put your quality on that product. And that's where the biggest transformation takes place, the biggest value transformation. So think about where you are in this peanut butter chain and how you can apply, regardless of what your career is, you can map a peanut butter chain to that, uh, and think about where you are and the value transformation that you bring to every step of the process. So finally, I'd like to talk about this thing. The forces shaping our world around us. And we are very aware of lots of things. Obviously, the pandemic is upon us. Um, we can easily rattle off, you know, uh, a dozen things that we've done differently in the last 2 years, right? From wearing masks to doing more meetings on Zoom to the way we shop more online, just so many things. The way we gather, the way we celebrate, the way we pray. So many things have changed because of the pandemic. And this is just one aspect. This is just the one that's most pressing to us right now. But over, hundreds of years, there are many things have been going on. There's been climate change. My company, I've been at the Compact slash HP slash HPE site at Luetta and 249 for 26 years, right? I've seen that campus grow, and now I've seen it shrink. It was flooded 3 times in 2 years, and so we shut down the factory um, because of climate change. And then we moved the factory to Mexico because of politics, of tariffs. We were, at one point over the course of 5 years ago, um, products that were imported from China faced a heavy tariff. And so we imported those products into Mexico, and we did some changes to the products in Mexico and then shipped them to the US as built in Mexico. So the way the world works, whether it's politics, globalization is something that's been going on for hundreds of years, ever since even before Columbus discovered America. People were always moving from continent to continent, from country to country. There's been this constant migration of human beings. So that's going on. We've seen the way technology changing, the way we live and we work is continuously changing. The politics that's going on. Uh, in the last 10 years, I think there are 2 new countries that were formed. Um, in so things are changing, and there are many states and many regions that are trying to form their own country to break away from their federal government. If you think of at least in my lifetime, the breakup of the Soviet Union, uh, there's just changes just continuously happening, and we don't make the change, but we have to navigate around the change. And we have to be able to do that successfully, we have to keep learning what's going on. We need to keep up with the news. We need to learn new skills, um, whether it's a spoken language or a programming language. We need to keep developing ourselves. We need to keep developing, taking classes in time management, in public speaking, um, or sometimes we view those as soft skills, but there are many necessary skills as well, such as negotiations and strategy and parenting. These are all very important skills that we need to navigate this world that we live in. And there's so many free classes that are available on Coursera, online. Uh, Take classes, keep learning new stuff over and over and over again. We have to keep learning and beware of the echo chamber. And I just want to give you an example of what happened to me. Something very simple. I fell into an echo chamber. Working from home for past 2 years, not getting much sunlight, I developed a vitamin D deficiency. So I looked up vitamin D deficiency. And since that day, every day in my news feed, I see an article on vitamin D deficiency. What I never saw was any article on what are the dangers of excess vitamin D. So just a simple query landed me into an echo chamber of just one idea. And we've got to be careful that we don't fall into these echo chambers where just one idea or one thought is regurgitated over and over and over again, that blinds us from the ability to see the other side. And it's important for us in every situation that we are to look and see what is the where's the spectrum of ideas for a particular topic, and where am I on that spectrum. You don't necessarily have to move where you are, but you have to recognize where you are. Am I on the extreme left? Am I on the extreme right? Am I in the middle? Where am I? And am I justified in being there? So keep learning new stuff. Be aware of what you're learning. But at the end of any given day, the most important thing that you're going to learn is something you learn about yourself. So with that, move on to my last slide. In summary, what I talked about is try to figure out who you are, what you're capable of. Try to grow your spheres of influence in networking, in knowledge and wisdom, the duration of impact, and your value and the value transformation that you bring. Thirdly, embrace the global changes, but recognize them and know where you are in the spectrum of ideas. Know where you are. Keep learning new skills. Keep learning about yourself. And remember, when life hands you lemons and the rest of the world is making lemonade, you should be building a global supply chain for the sustainable production of sugar, because that's what everyone needs. So go forth and make awesomeness. Thank you all very much. If you have any questions, please do put them in the chat and I will try to respond. You can write to everyone, put it to everyone.
Thank you so much, Brother Reza. That was an amazing and inspiring presentation.
Thank
We
you.
do have a
Thank you.
couple of questions that were sent to me. The
Okay.
first one is, how do I find a mentor or someone to mentor?
Ah, excellent. Excellent. Very good question. Um, so this is where your sphere of your network comes in, right? Uh, you want to be able to tap into that. In your network, you have if you network with people, you have professionals and non-professionals. You have family members, you have friends, and you have working people. Um, and tap into that. Those your friends and your family, they have they have kids, they know people, and just tap into that. That's a great place where you can not only take influence but give influence. Put yourself out as a coach. Say, hey, I would like to coach someone. I would like to mentor someone. And that's a good place where friends, family, professionals that people from your masjid community or your house of worship, wherever you are, there are people that you can lean in on and have that mutual exchange. I see some here in the chat. Do you see importance in writing down goals and plans with timelines? Yes, these are valid techniques. Certainly visualizing and writing down and repeating your goals to yourself so that you don't forget. One of the techniques of not only writing them out is also telling other people that, hey, this is my goal, and um, they will remind you that this is your goal. They'll come back to you and say, hey, 4 years ago you had this goal. Whatever happened to that? So that gives you incentive to stick to your goals. So certainly writing down and sticking to it is very important. Any books you suggest to develop in this area? There are, numerous self-help books in terms of um, self-reflection. I can't think of any off the top of my mind. Someone said, try 7 Habits of Successful People. Yeah, certainly Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, Highly Successful Managers, Highly Successful Families. That series is very useful. Yep. What do you think about continuously improving on what you're doing and influencing versus drastic change in your career because you can't grow in the previous one? Um, Right. So there's an old poem that says, it- it- however humble, be interested in your own career, because in the changing forces of the world, it's a real possession. But unfortunately, we are seeing the world changing very dramatically before our eyes. And I was born in the last century. I can still remember a blacksmith. And I don't know if people can still remember a blacksmith who makes shoes for horses. But that's not a career that's, a viable career anymore, right? Certainly there are people who are blacksmiths, but you don't find a blacksmith on every corner. You might find a Starbucks in every corner. So depending on what your career is, how well you're trained for it, what are the prospects for that career in the future? I remember milkman, uh, those don't exist anymore. So certainly some careers they evaporate, they disappear, and others, new ones are being created. If you are in a career that you see the writing on the wall that this is that, for instance, you're in a field that you're seeing artificial intelligence is taking over my job, right? You may want to certainly retrain, and that's a challenge for um, a lot of professionals, especially as they get towards, they're getting to their 50s and 60s, and they're figuring out, wow, the world doesn't need left-handed screwdrivers anymore. And I've spent 30 years building left-handed screwdrivers. What am I going to do? Uh, yes, so you need to evaluate your career choices in the context of the greater global changes that's going on. What jobs will disappear in your opinion? Um, yeah, uh, there are many jobs that are being taken over by artificial intelligence. I can tell you jobs that are not going away. Coaching is not going away. Um, uh, um, Jobs that require hands-on are not going away. So you think of service jobs, the job to fix a car, the job to take care of a patient, the jobs to fix machinery. Those jobs are not going away. Design jobs are not going away. What are jobs that are going away? Some factory jobs are going away, particularly labor-intensive, mechanical, repetitive jobs are going away. Um, and but they're not just going away and creating a vacuum. They're actually being replaced by other jobs, but those other jobs may require a higher skill set. So some of those jobs are going away, but they're being replaced by programmers or being replaced by uh, a higher level of technical maintenance that's required to keep up the equipment. There is a fear that some previously thought jobs such as pharmacy could be under attack by artificial intelligence. Um, and there are many companies working on the AI for those things, but they may be 10, 15 years away. Uh, but there's always we have to be careful about what we predict, because many times technology proves us wrong. I've been waiting for that jetpack for a very long time. It still hasn't, and the hovercraft, they haven't showed up yet. It's been decades. So many things that we predict don't come to fruition. Um, what's a really good presentation? Oh, thank you very much. Do you suggest any YouTube video or books on value and value transformation? I get a lot of inspiration from TED Talks, um, but you sort of have to look at it and specifically ask yourself, what is the value transformation that's taking place in this tech talk? Where are they taking you from, and what are they taking you to? So I didn't see a lot of material specifically on it, but in the abstract, that's exactly what's going on, is that these TED Talks and these inspirational talks are taking you from one state to an improved state. And so um, that's And the thing about TED Talks is that you can latch on to any topic of your choice, right? Whether it's management or creativity or it's environmental, or it's political. They're TED Talks for all kinds of stuff.
Mr. Reza, we do have one more question.
Yes,
What is
please.
the value of growing my network other than to help me find a job?
Ah, yes. So yeah, I want to emphasize that we shouldn't be looking at our network only from extracting value from it. Uh, we want the value of growing our network is to become influential. If we if we only focus on extracting value from it, I think we're limiting ourselves to just one side of the equation. And what we really need to do is to bring value to the network, be an influencer in that network, so that when someone, if I'm a business person or if I'm an entrepreneur and someone has an opportunity for me, they'll remember, I remember that guy from our network. He was an influencer. He always came up with ideas and he always pointed people in the right direction or something. It's a way for people to remember you. It's a way for you to exert your influence on the network. So think of it more from what value you bring as opposed to what value you can get out from from the network.
Thank you. Another question we have is, do you suggest any YouTube videos on value or books on value and value formation?
Yes, I uh, addressed that
Did we
briefly.
already? Oh,
Yes, that's
sorry.
the one I talked about.
I must have missed that. I
Yes,
apologize.
the TED
Um,
Talks. Yes,
okay. And the other question is, what is the difference between knowledge and wisdom? We'll just take this last question and we'll wrap it up.
right. So you think of knowledge a- and wisdom. Let me give you an example. So many of us are familiar with Thomas Edison. He had this idea that if he applied a voltage to some kind of material, that it will glow, it will produce light. That was sort of the wisdom piece of it. What he didn't know, the knowledge that he lacked, was how much voltage and what material. And so he proceeded to empirically, that is, one by one, he would pick different materials and he would apply a voltage, different voltages, and to see if it would glow. And he came across 800 or whatever the number was of different types of material, and none of them glowed. But in that process, he was acquiring knowledge. He was learning what did not work until finally he got to carbon, coal, and he applied the voltage to coal and it glowed. That was the piece that worked. So you can look at the knowledge are the pieces of information. The wisdom is what puts it together to provide something that's beneficial, such as creating a light bulb. Hope that helps.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Reza. This was a very informative webinar. I hope everyone enjoyed themselves. We will be back with Mr. Reza in a couple of weeks on January 29th with another informative webinar called Strategy 101. Look out for more information on it by following us on social media. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. The links are in the chat. Once again, thank you, first of all, to our guest speaker, Mr. Reza Bachhus. We really appreciate you taking the time this evening, and to our participants and viewers who joined us today. Inshallah, we will post this video on YouTube as well. Thank you and have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.